Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Wednesday. The fallout after a transfer of party loyalty. Are there others waiting in the wings?
And you want to say tariffs are not taxes, but that's exactly what they are.
Trump's tariffs under Supreme Court scrutiny.
It really has been a mirror of the political and social change.
Plus budgeting for Canada's inclusion in Eurovision.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
As the Prime Minister begins selling his budget and everyone is analyzing and digesting what it means to them, we cannot ignore the dramatic moment yesterday when a Conservative MP crossed the floor to join the Liberals, which is why we asked CTV's senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture to dig into the move that overshadowed Conservative budget critiques. Hi, Mike.
Well, Sandy, a floor crossing is significant news on Parliament Hill, but this one could be seismic, with rumors swirling in recent weeks that there are others considering joining the Liberal benches. A clearly content Chris d'Entremont welcomed by a lively Liberal caucus. The Nova Scotia MP says his decision to cross over came down to serving his constituents and issues with Pierre Poilievre.
Over the last number of months, I wasn't feeling that I was aligned with the ideals of what the Leader of the Opposition had been talking about.
I'm honored.
The newest Liberal accompanied the Prime Minister to his post-budget press conference, where Mark Carney had this message for all parliamentarians.
Wherever they're sitting in the House, this is a time where we need to act as a country, be as unified as possible.
d'Entremont's former caucus colleagues questioned his move, given his record.
6 months ago, he ran on an affordability agenda. He ran to lower deficits. He ran on a stronger economy, a pro-growth agenda, and he's turned his back on that.
But the former Conservative says others in that caucus are also mulling over a move.
I would suggest that there probably are those that are in the same boat, but I will let them tell their stories if that time comes.
Attempting to quell recent rumors that she is crossing the floor, Conservative Dominique Vienne released a video reaffirming her commitment to the party. But if others do go, some pollsters predict problems for Pierre Poilievre.
It is a rare thing for a member of Parliament to cross the floor, especially one in an environment as polarized as Canada is today, and I think that suggests it would be a signal that Mr. Poilievre has a real challenge in keeping the party together.
The Liberals wouldn't say if they're actively recruiting other MPs to join the government caucus, but when asked about it, Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand said, the more the merrier. Sandy?
Okay, Mike, thank you. Well, how do the folks in Chris d'Entremont's own riding of Acadie-Annapolis feel about their MP crossing the floor? CTV's Paul Hollingsworth picks up the assignment. Okay, Paul, what are you hearing from members of the community?
Sandy, here in this riding, which is mostly rural with some small towns, there is a mix of reactions. Some are truly surprised, especially here in Yarmouth.
I was a bit shocked, yeah, because I've known him for quite a long time. I was in Rotary with him back in like 2004 or 5 when he was working with Neil LeBlanc, which was Conservative provincially, and then he went provincial and then federal.
I'm thrilled because I think that he's a good representative, and so it's going to be a plus for the Liberals to have him on their team.
Carney is good for the Liberals, and I think his move to Carney's party is going to be very good.
I'm not very happy about that. I'm not very much impressed with the Liberals. They have done a lot of harm to the country, and I'm not very pleased that he did that.
It's worth noting in April's federal election, Chris d'Entremont won this riding by just 533 votes, a margin of 1.1% over his Liberal opponent. Sandy.
Okay, Paul, thank you so much. Time to bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelas. Vashi, 1 down, 2 to go to give Mark Carney a majority government. And Chris d'Entremont says there are others who feel the same way. So what are your sources telling you?
Yeah, Mr. d'Entremont is certainly reflecting what I think reporters on Ottawa now have been hearing and chasing for a couple of weeks, that there is a group potentially of Conservative MPs who are considering crossing the floor. My sources are telling me that talks for a couple of them have intensified over the past few days, but they're also telling me that the Conservative Party is well aware of that intensification and is attempting to match it with a campaign of its own, for lack of a better phrase, essentially trying to drill down on the messaging that would not be good for the future careers of those members of Parliament. So there's a lot happening in the back rooms of the Conservative Party right now, and there's a lot happening in the inner circle of the Prime Minister's office in trying to convince the remainder of those Conservative members of Parliament to cross over in order to get that budget passed, as you said.
Okay, so that whole scenario, you know, what does this say about the federal Conservatives?
Well, I think a lot, and I think perhaps, depending on how things go, a lot about the leadership of Pierre Poilievre. You heard Chris d'Entremont in particular take very specific aim at that leadership and the leadership style. There are other MPs who have, you know, reached a sort of malaise. I don't think necessarily outright concern, but malaise around that leadership style, and in particular, what it is or isn't doing to further their chances in the next election. And so I think this becomes part of the story as we head into that leadership review in January for Pierre Poilievre, if not sooner.
Okay, as always, Vashti, thanks so much. Now, one day after the finance minister unveiled the Liberals' budget in the House of Commons, opinions on whether it is good for Canadians are coming at us fast and furious. CTV's Abigail Beeman has been asking questions of the experts, and she's with us now. Abigail.
Sandy, experts say this was more of a big picture budget with not too many takeaways that would impact Canadians tomorrow or in their daily life in the short term.
Morning. How are you? At an Ottawa light rail yard the morning after the budget, the Prime Minister highlighted its $51 billion Build Communities Strong local infrastructure fund.
Canada's strength wasn't built in the halls of Parliament. It was built in our communities.
An attempt to make a high-level budget he calls generational, relevant for average Canadians. As many economists say, while positive, there were not many takeaways to impact daily life.
The government is moving in the right direction, but seem hesitant to go all in on this. When we look at the amount of support that was provided to the economy is less than we were expecting. We looked at the depth of the cuts. It was less than we were expecting.
Randall Bartlett points to previously announced tax cuts and a new promise to lower bank fees as impactful, but a budget with a tricky big picture narrative.
The tough thing that I think we'll see is that a lot of this is going to help kind of prevent Canada from being in a worse situation because of the trade war with the U.S.
They're worried about how they're going to pay for their grocery bills. They're worried about how they're going to afford tuition. They're worried if they don't have a doctor. And this budget doesn't do anything for them.
The big bet that Mark Carney's making in this budget is on the patience of Canadians.
Scott Reid calls it a 30,000-foot budget, with reorienting our economy and restructuring business investment taking as long as a decade to have tangible impacts.
They may be absolutely necessary, but they are not urgent. And Canadians tend to think, worry, and vote on the basis of urgency.
Reid says the government needs to focus now on showing Canadians how they can benefit from the budget on an ongoing basis, not just on budget day. The government tells CTV News today's train depot announcement was just the start of a cross-country tour to promote the budget. Sandy?
Okay, CTV's Abigail Beeman in Ottawa. Now, the budget also includes cuts to global affairs and something that could make it more difficult for Ottawa to help Canadians abroad, like those in Sudan caught up in a devastating civil war with mass executions, savage violence, and starvation. CTV senior correspondent Heather Wright has reached out to Sudanese families living in Canada. Heather.
Well, Sandy, the people I spoke with today say they feel forgotten. A brutal war in their country, and they feel like they've seen little action from countries like Canada to stop it.
10,000 kilometers separates Ashraf Ahmed from his family in Sudan. He tries to keep in touch with them and watches from Canada as his country spirals deeper and deeper into chaos.
The number of killed people and displaced make the war in Sudan the biggest tragedy in the recent history.
For more than 2 years, Sudan's army and the paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, have been embroiled in a bloody power struggle. The fighting has killed thousands of civilians and left nearly 25 million people facing acute hunger. Ottawa introduced special measures for Sudanese Canadians to help bring family members here. But Ahmed says the process is slow. His parents and in-laws were able to escape Sudan but are stuck abroad, waiting to come here. His mother-in-law passed away last year.
Her grandchildren, my children, were not able to see her.
Escaping Sudan has become even more urgent in recent days as the city of El Fasher fell to rebel forces. Tens of thousands were forced to flee on foot, with survivors accusing RSF fighters of going house to house, killing civilians, raping women, and slaughtering patients in a hospital. Sadia Ara is a pharmacist in Ottawa, originally from El Fasher, and is calling on Ottawa to do more to help end this conflict.
Enough about talking. We need action on the ground.
Ara was able to bring her mother to Canada in May, but worries that cuts to foreign aid announced in yesterday's budget will not only make the process harder, but also reduce the amount of aid Canada sends to Sudan. Ottawa has sent more than $100 million in aid since the conflict began.
Some human rights groups say Canadian weapons initially sent to the United Arab Emirates are being used in this conflict. The UAE denies arming the RSF. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to visit the UAE later this month, but it's not clear if the issue of weapons will be discussed. Sandy.
CTV's Heather Wright. A landmark case with implications for Canada and global trade was on trial before the U.S. Supreme Court today, the highest court in the land, hearing arguments against the legal authority of Donald Trump's emergency use of tariffs. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon with how the day unfolded inside and outside court. Joy.
Sandy, this is one of the most economically significant cases the High Court has heard in decades, and it challenges presidential authority. The Handmaid's Tale protesters are back, demonstrating against Donald Trump's tariffs and use of presidential power. The president has slapped tariffs on more than 90 nations, including Canada, by declaring a national economic emergency. The justices heard arguments whether Trump's use of the 1977 law without congressional approval is even legal.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
It's the president's signature tool to strike new trade deals, claiming it addresses trade deficits and protects manufacturing.
President Trump has negotiated agreements worth trillions of dollars with major trading partners. Unwinding those agreements, he warns, would expose us to ruthless trade retaliation.
It's a congressional power, not a presidential power, to tax. And you want to say tariffs are not taxes, but that's exactly what they are.
Even some conservative justices seemed skeptical.
My question is, has there ever been another instance in which a statute has used that language to confer the power?
Only President Trump has. Several states and small businesses challenged his tariffs, and lower courts agreed he's overstepped his authority.
They're gloating all over all the billions of dollars that they're collecting. They think it's great. What they don't say is they're collecting it from American businesses.
Trump's tariffs have cost Canada billions of dollars in lost business, straining relations with the U.S., and with trade talks stalled over an Ontario anti-tariff ad.
Such trade barriers hurt every American worker.
This is like somebody's driving the train. We're kind of in the back cars, and we don't control its speed, and we don't control its destination.
President Trump posted this court case is life or death for America. With his most important economic policy at stake, the court's expected to rule swiftly. That could be weeks or months. Sandy?
Okay, Joy, thank you. The new mayor-elect of New York says he's willing to speak with Donald Trump, but will resist any intimidation from the White House. Zohran Mamdani spoke today after directly challenging the U.S. president in his victory speech.
Whether that be delivering on his campaign promises around cost of living or the many issues that New Yorkers have been sharing with me about the drastic impacts that the legislation that President Trump has ushered through Washington will mean for them and their lives.
So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Mamdani becomes the first Muslim mayor of New York City, and at 34 is also the youngest person in over a century to hold that role. Democrats also won races for governor in New Jersey and Virginia.
I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good for anybody. But we had an interesting evening, and we learned a lot.
And a measure in California passed that would redraw electoral maps to help Democrats in next year's midterms. That's in response to a similar measure in Texas that would help Republicans. Officials say the engine of a UPS plane detached from the wing before a deadly crash in Kentucky last night as new and disturbing images emerge. Officials say the cargo plane's wing caught fire and the engine fell off just before it crashed after taking off from Muhammad Ali International Airport in Louisville. Multiple camera angles capture the massive fireball and the plane engulfed in flames. At least 11 people were killed, including 3 crew members, with a number of victims expected to rise. And the president of Mexico says she has filed a complaint to police after she was groped by an intoxicated man while speaking with supporters in Mexico City.
Quien coordina todo el equipo de ayudantía.
President Claudia Sheinbaum says she felt a responsibility to press charges on behalf of all women of Mexico. The incident raises questions about her personal safety, but Sheinbaum says she will not increase her security or change how she interacts with people. Coming up, picking up the pieces. After a weather bomb blows over Newfoundland. Atlantic Canada was rocked by a so-called weather bomb overnight, and the storm has left its mark on parts of Newfoundland. Among other things, it knocked down a fish plant that employs 300 people. CTV's Garrett Barry was out in the storm and has more on the aftermath from St. John's. Garrett.
Sandy, this really is a devastating loss for this small town. The fish plant was by far the biggest employer in the area, and now some 300 people are worried for their livelihoods. This was the view at about 9 p.m. last night, a building fully engulfed in flames. High winds made it extremely hard for firefighters to do their work. Mayor Steve Ryan said his crews were actually getting soaked by the waves pounding on the shore. Police say no one was hurt, and a fire investigator has started their work.
As you can imagine, the mayor was very emotional about the loss to his community, the loss to people around there, a major employer, and just literally, I mean, within a few months of getting up and running again.
Premier Tony Wakeham says he has received some assurances from the company behind the fish plant that they're interested in rebuilding. In the meantime, he says he'd like to see some more federal EI support to help those affected workers.
All right.
Sandy.
Okay, thank you, CTV's Garrett Barry. As we head to break, if you've never heard of Tika the Iggy, an Italian greyhound from Montreal, you will now. The four-legged fashionista rose to social media fame thanks to playful videos like this showing off her extensive wardrobe. But now, a sad note. The 14-year-old dog underwent surgery and died shortly afterwards, according to her owners. But hey, her signature looks live on. Some good news for Blue Jays fans. Starting pitcher Shane Bieber has chosen to stay with the team.
It's going to be hard to replicate what this group's, brings to the table day in and day out. Extremely grateful to be a part of it.
Now, that was a tearful Bieber after Toronto's heartbreaking Game 7 loss. Now, instead of testing free agency, the 30-year-old has opted to stay with the club next season for $16 million U.S. He was acquired at the trade deadline and pitched well down the stretch, picking up 4 wins in 7 starts. Well, a star player at CTV award-winning cinematographer Kirk Neff suffers from essential tremors disorder that can cause uncontrollable handshaking. Kirk candidly shared his battle with the disease by giving CTV chief anchor Omar Sachedina rare access inside the operating room.
There we go. I'll see you on the other side.
Over the next 5 hours, Dr. Mojgan Hodai will meticulously insert a small electrode inside Kirk's brain and position it next to the cells that are causing the tremors.
We need to reach a fine object deep into the brain. So this requires an accuracy, I don't play golf, but better than a hole-in-one, I think.
And you can watch part 2 of Kirk's journey on CTV National News with Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 on CTV, of course, and ctvnews.ca.
We will never forget your bravery, your strength, your sacrifice.
The very best and bravest of our nation, these heroic souls stood on guard for freedom.
Join the CTV News team and me as Canada comes together to remember.
Remembrance Day 2025, Tuesday morning at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on CTV.
So the budget contained an unexpected cultural overture. Ottawa is working to secure Canada a spot in the Eurovision Song Competition. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin now on why it's key to hit this high note. Hi, Jen.
Yes, Andy, it wasn't exactly center stage in the budget, but those crunching the numbers did come across this rather, well, unexpected item. A larger-than-life show of fireworks, glitter, and at times self-parody, the Eurovision Song Contest has also long been known as a vehicle for nation branding and cultural diplomacy.
It really has been a mirror of the political and social change in Europe, and that's why people love to watch it.
And so it just may be that through this contest, Canada at this moment wants to further ties with Europe. Eurovision was first held in 1956. Switzerland won then. It's now watched by hundreds of millions of viewers. And despite its name, broadcasters from non-European countries too, including Australia, have joined the chorus of participants. And while Canada has never joined in, some Canadians have. In 1988, Switzerland famously borrowed our Céline Dion. She won. Over the years, some critics have mocked the contest's campy style. Billed as non-political, some also say political friendships and rivalries behind the scenes impact results. A vote on whether to include Israel has created divisions. Eurovision's inclusion in this country's budget, with details and figures yet to be revealed, hit a sour note for some. A Conservative MP took to X, saying, "Can't afford groceries? Don't worry, the Liberal budget is exploring participation by CBC in Eurovision." Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Swings to mind. On Montreal streets, some singer suggestions and applause for the bid from American tourists.
Yeah, 100%.
We have American Idol. It's kind of bad, but we're kind of bad, so it works. Like it fits what we're doing down there. So yeah, we don't deserve Eurovision.
And so it seems there's still quite a bit more exploring to do before Canada is in the spotlight at Eurovision. Sandy.
Okay, thank you, Jen. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Bye for now.